We are live, and I am so excited to be going live with someone who I have a massive respect for. Some may say fangirl, but we're not going to do that. We're not going to. Morning, Libby. And morning, Little Patterns. Oh my goodness, she's so quickly. She's just so quick on the uptake. I'm really excited. This is so exciting. Clearly, I am caffeinated, so that's good. Hi, Maggie.
Hi.
How are you?
I should probably include my head in this. I don't know if I can. Hi, how are you?
Good, good. How are you?
Doing good.
Yeah, this whole Instagram live thing is definitely new territory for me, especially being so I'm a bit of a organization freak when it comes to having everything
Yeah.
like planned and trying to aim for that perfection sort of reach. So going live is a big step for me.
It's
Yeah.
I did one with Ade, and
I love that.
we were like, okay, we should practice on our Finstas, our fake Instas before we go on, so
Oh
that we
my
don't
gosh,
mess up.
people have Finstas.
Like like your fit one, like your real not work one.
I
Like
don't
your
have one of those.
I have like
I have my dog's
7.
one. What if my
My
dog goes
dog
live? That could
has
be
an
cool.
Instagram. Everybody one. So he called me to do the live, and I was like, I can't talk. My hair is in curlers. And then he got some pretty good blackmail for his Instagram.
Excellent, excellent. That's what we want.
Anyway,
Awesome.
it's good
Well, thank you
stuff.
so much for joining me. I have to admit, when I first contacted you and reached out to you, I was like, oh my God. So I've contacted these four people, and if any of them come back to me, it'll be great. And then you came back to me first, and I was like, really?
Yeah, sounds
Awesome.
great. Yeah,
Yeah.
and you're so cool and collected and not nerdy at all.
No, no.
Uh,
People say fangirl. I don't know what they're talking about.
so sweet. It's really nice. No, this is great.
Awesome. So, for those who don't know Maggie, you've been living under a rock and you need to wake up from wherever you've been sleeping because Maggie is a wonderful illustration artist, an absolute boss at licensing. And look, I need to just not get fangirly. So, you go ahead and you introduce yourself. Give, like, as Scotty says, a brief Wikipedia bio of yourself.
Sure. My name is Maggie Enterios. I'm Little Patterns on the internet, and I am a commercial illustrator, which means that I do mostly illustration for packaging design and commercial clients. And as Jasmine mentioned, I do license my artwork, which means that it can be used kind of across the world for different commercial purposes.
Yeah, awesome. And think the I think I first interacted with you and met you after I listened to a Perspective podcast episode, the one that everyone knows. Contacted you and said, "Hey, I think we should be friends."
Yeah, that I did. I did a podcast with Scotty from Perspective Collective, episode 116, which is
Nice.
also my birthday, so it's very easy
Oh,
to remember.
that's
Um,
awesome.
and that is a good episode, and it's all about pricing. And the reason it went so well is because we recorded it 3 times due to technical difficulties. So by the third time we
It was
recorded it,
polished.
we were like pros at talking to each other. We felt like old friends, and the episode just was kind of magical. And we're doing a new one soon, part 2.
Hey,
Mm-hmm.
awesome. Might chat to him and see what that's all about.
Yeah,
Because Scotty's actually my coach.
good for you.
Yeah, so I've been working with Scotty these last couple of weeks, months, working on something that's coming out next month, which I'm very excited about.
Great.
But he's awesome to work with, and I've followed his podcast for a very long time. I'm pretty sure that if you were to go into my Spotify, it just goes, let's listen to a Perspective Collective episode or a Perspective Collective episode. Which would you like?
That's awesome.
Yeah, so I reached out to you because when it comes to pricing, I think as designers, we think that we're supposed to fit into this very specific box of like we design things and we give those designs and then we get money for them, and that's the end of the conversation. And I think that as of, especially in the last 5 years, everyone's starting to get a bit more aware of what can happen when it comes to designers and what they create and how that then translates after it's left their hands, ever so vice grip like hands.
Right.
I'm just talking from my experience, of course. So when it comes to you and pricing your projects, how do you prefer to price your projects, and why is that? Because I know that you have a little bit of an interesting and different take on it when it comes to what you do.
Yeah, so the best way to kind of start out describing it is that I used to work on the other side of things. So I used to be an art director working in-house. And part of my job as an art director was to hire talent for different projects.
That
So
makes sense.
photographers, illustrators. And so while I was sitting at my day job, which I liked, like it was fine, but I was learning and I was seeing how artists were able to get these kind of contracted gigs, sell their photography, sell their illustrations, and I thought that was really cool and interesting. And I decided that that might be something I would want to try out for myself. So going into it, I had a little bit of understanding that like people could survive and make money doing art, which is a great place to start because
you actually knew that it is like, it's a proven case. It does work.
Yeah,
I know,
yeah.
because I've been the other person that's actually handing out the money.
Exactly.
So to speak.
It's like I've been there, and I made friends with a photographer that I used to hire and kind of was able to ask him questions before I took the leap into full-time freelance, which then became full-time self-employment as with a company. But the way I price now as an illustrator is twofold. So everything I create, if you're not familiar with my work, I have do super detailed, layered. I love them. I love my work.
And sometimes vectored,
cool.
which feels like magic. Like the fact that you do both digital from a kind of bitmap perspective and then vector, it just blows my mind.
I have a lot of fun doing what I do. A lot of it's botanical, a lot of it's pattern based. So the artwork I create, when someone approaches me to do a project, they usually at this point have a really good idea of what they want. I understand that it's different for many people, but the work I do has kind of become so highly specialized to the degree that by the time someone approaches me, like they already think I'm a good fit for their project. There isn't too much back and forth where they're like, can you do this style? Like that never really happens to me. So they usually approach me. They know that they like what I do. They can imagine it being part of their brand. And I quote them based on the artwork creation and that, and then an additional fee that is the usage or licensing or rights, which are all kind of the same thing. Usage, licensing, and rights all refer to what the client can do with the work. So happy to dive in more if you want me to.
Well, I think that personally for me, so I've also created a couple of patterns and fabric prints and illustrations that have then gotten to be placed on different items. And I know for myself that once I listened to your episode and as well as started upskilling and understanding what this world was, I realized how much I lost, because all of those, they were just like, here's the artwork. And I've seen it done before that past clients, not for my particular artwork, but one before me, they had bought the illustration, placed it on the item, and it had gone gangbusters. And so they'd ended up reprinting 8 times, but they only paid one license, which meant that one piece that they say, for instance, paid $500 for, instead of it being an investment, it ended up being a commodity. And that like breaks my heart for that artist, because then they're legitimately losing revenue that they could have had, plus like seeing something do so well, it kind of leaves you a little bit hungry and a little bit kind of shortchanged. Have you had, like, when it comes to the licensing stuff, have you ever had any situations where that is, or are you just, I'm assuming now you're completely like set, this is exactly what I know what I'm doing, but have you had any other kind of past examples that you've gone, oh, I could have done that differently?
Oh, millions. I mean, not millions. I won't exaggerate. I'd say probably I'd say I probably have like 3 dozen projects where I regret
Wow.
some portion that I felt I did wrong or
Yeah.
didn't protect myself or didn't ask enough questions. And so the idea of licensing is your artwork that you create for a client has value. It has marketability.
Shocking.
Yeah, right. It has to be noted.
Mm.
But the example I tend to use is like, we'll call it like a mug, a design that goes on a coffee mug for a coffee shop. And if that coffee shop hires you to do a design, maybe you'll say, great, like I'd love to do a design for your coffee shop. What should I
Maybe I
draw?
already
And they're like,
pre-designed it in my head. Like it's
right.
already
They're like,
done. It's
okay,
so fine.
Maggie, draw some flowers for spring. So I could
Shocking.
say like, awesome.
Groundbreaking.
Well, those flowers are going to take me, I don't know, 10 hours. Maybe I'll charge you $750. Sound good? And they might say, great. And then you design the flowers and you send the file off and you're done. That is like just the worst thing you can do. It's the
And
worst
it's also
thing.
the most common thing that we do.
It is the most common thing. It's everybody's kind of first step is you think, how long will that thing take me? You come up with a flat fee in your mind and you send it off to the client. The client says, okay, and then you do the work. The concept of licensing is that, let's say I draw those roses, we'll call them roses, for that coffee mug. And the coffee shop makes 100 mugs with the roses on them. And they sell each of those mugs for $10. That could be a fairly fair price to charge that coffee shop, considering what they might make on the mugs after expenses of producing them. But let's say the next year they decide, oh my gosh, those mugs did so well last year.
Let's redo them.
Let's redo them, and let's try to sell them on our online shop. So let's print 3,000 mugs, and we'll upcharge. We'll charge $15 a piece for them. Great. Well, your work is what's selling the mug. Like, your work deserves a small percentage of that sale.
And realistically, if someone's ordering a mug, they don't really want a blank one.
No,
so
they don't want a blank mug.
No.
The artwork on the mug is the thing that sells it. Let's like go a step further. You don't have Target out there, I don't think.
Yeah, we do.
Walmart. You have, okay, I was gonna say. Okay,
we have Target.
Oh, you know what?
Kmart. So
Target
is
I
our.
bought dumbbells from Walmart or Target in Australia last year.
You should know. You were here for a while.
I should have known. Okay, so let's say let's say Target sees this design, and Target reaches out to the coffee shop and says, we want to carry this coffee shop or that mug in our stores. The coffee shop could be like, great, you can place an order for 30,000 mugs wholesale and you can sell them at Target. So now that artwork has just gotten so far away from you and you have no claim to the artwork at all.
Mm-hmm.
So licensing as a concept is attaching value to the artwork, understanding what rights your client has to reproduce the work, and protecting yourself so that in the future you can gain the correct amount of income / credit for the work that you have done.
Mm-hmm.
So when I say that I charge artwork creation plus licensing usage or rights, I charge artwork creation. Well, in this fictional example, I'll call it $750 because that's how much it was worth for me to make it. But I'm going to ask that coffee shop, how many are you producing? Where are you distributing? How long are you going to distribute? And I can give them a secondary price based on the answers to those questions.
Yeah.
Based on the answers, I can also limit their availability to do something. So they might say, well, we're creating 100 now, but we might want to use it next year as well. Mm-hmm. And I could say, great, well, I'll charge you another $1,000 this year. And next year, if you want to reprint them, it'll be, $750 per 1,000 mugs or
Yeah.
whatever. I'm not
So
using pen and paper right now.
too hard, too hard.
Yeah, too much.
So basically, my understanding is that when it comes to the licensing or usage on a image that you have produced, whatever it may be, you can base it on, I think it's three core components. One is how many is being produced, two is how long it's being produced, and three is where it's being distributed. Is that kind of the three kind of main things?
Four. The other
Four.
is, what type of exclusivity do you need?
Okay.
So do you want to be the only one that can produce this design on a mug? Or am I free to sell it to a textile company to create a pattern out of? Or am I free to sell it to a cosmetic company to make a billboard out of? So if you want to be the only one that produces it, cost more. If you're open to me using it elsewhere, cost less. So
that makes sense.
I usually go by four. In different types of media, there might be other core components of pricing that I haven't even thought of yet. But for illustration, for me, it's the geography. So where they're producing something, how many they're producing, what kind of item they're producing. And
there's a big difference between a mug and a blanket and a dress and like a whole cutlery set with flowers on it or whatever it ends up being.
Right.
Like there's
right.
And so do you generally define that license by like what the end product is being sold of, a percentage of that, or how does that
rarely do that.
Okay.
So I rarely do a per item percentage.
Then how do you work out the value?
I almost never do that unless it is presented to me.
Yeah.
So I have had some clients that say, okay, we're going to pay you this upfront, and then you'll make an additional 7-8% on every other item. So like in the publishing world, if you have a book as an illustrator, you can expect probably between 8 to 15% on every book you sell. That's not a lot. I mean, I make like 90 cents a book on every book I sell, which is not much, but I also got an initial fee.
When you're selling out, when you've sold out of all of the copies and someone in Australia is waiting for her copy that is currently coming on Tuesday, which I'm very excited
I know.
Oh.
It's really fun. It's a pretty book.
It's a very pretty book. It is a very pretty book.
Yeah. So I mostly don't do that because I rarely... I personally don't want to have to deal with the accountability of having to gather sales reports and, quarterly check-ins where I'm asking somebody to provide me with sales numbers and then to give me my percentage of the fees. It's just not something I'm interested in.
It's messy.
It's messy. And I found personally that a lot of clients don't want to do that. A lot of smaller clients used to want to, like if they were selling t-shirts, they were like, okay, well, I can't pay you too much up front, but I'll give you 10% of every t-shirt sale. And I was like, yeah, but what if you don't do well? It's more of a gamble. Of course it is. Having money in hand feels better than waiting to see if something does well.
Yep, definitely know that feeling. Definitely know that feeling. I think that one of the very lesser things that creatives talk about, one being money, but two, how much money is generally outstanding at any point in time. Like for me personally, I will say right now that I have about 60 grand worth of bits, and this is like spanning from just last week to a couple of years ago, and a lot of those things are in different positions, different placements, which is why I personally do a lot of diversification, not just from I've got this thing that I sell or this product that I sell and I do design. Mine is I've got a lot of different design projects that are charged really differently across the whole scope. So some of them have an upfront payment, some of them have payment plans, some of them are retainers, some of them are a subscription. So I personally do a lot of diversification in the way things are paid. So I would assume that you would have so many different setups because you generally have so many different clients that you need to do something different for. So how would you say that you currently kind of work through all of that? Now, I know that obviously, given that you do have a lot of clients that are possibly NDA based or things that you can't massively talk about, totally fine if you wanting to kind of skate around that, but
Yeah, no,
give us a little bit of an insight.
I don't really diversify my income as much as people assume that I do.
Right.
Mostly because it's messy and I don't like that. I don't do any product sales myself because I tried it a couple times and I did not like it. Like it doesn't, to quote Marie Kondo, like it did not bring me joy. I
Yeah.
don't like dealing with selling things. I don't want
Mhm.
anyone reviewing my stuff anywhere. I'm not interested in that. I
I want you to enjoy it, but don't let me know if you don't. Just don't let me know.
No. Oh my gosh, I got like a 3-star review on my book and I was like, who is she? And I was like up at night
That would
thinking like,
totally be
I
me
wonder if
too.
she's sleeping right now, so smug that she gave me a 3-star review. I'm just not built for that.
I wonder
So
what she's going to do with those 2 extra stars. Is she
I
going to go and
know.
like use them for something else? Like, that's
I
rude.
know. So I don't do product sales. I don't there currently is nothing on the market of mine that is like an item that just has my work on it that is in a retail setting. Like I
I
don't
think there
have.
was like quite a few years ago. I think that was one of the first things I saw, which was like illustrations that were on blankets or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't have any products currently. Like when you asked me if I wanted to promote anything, I was like, yeah, I'm good. I'm good.
No, I'm fine, thanks. I'm
Um,
living my lavish life.
I,
It's fine. I'm just sitting out in my backyard painting flowers.
I'm just yeah.
So,
I'm not a
which I'm
product
loving that,
person.
by the way. It looks
Oh,
so good.
it's gonna be really really cool. So in terms of diversification, most of my projects are um, how do I put this? So most of them are like single, like one-off contracted jobs. So,
Hmm.
Maggie designed this whiskey bottle, and I expect to probably not get paid for that for 6 months, maybe ish. I would
Wow.
say usually because it takes 2-3 months to get the project done, and then all the billing, that kind of stuff. Um, and then I have
That
a
lead time's
few.
massive.
Oh yeah, it is. It is. It
They
gets a
thought
little.
builders were bad. And wow.
Yeah, no, I definitely feel like I'm in the construction industry sometimes. So most of the projects are that style. I have a few ongoing spot illustration jobs. So spot illustration is stuff like icon design. So for like shampoo bottles where there's like a small coconut or something like that. So I've historically
Which
had a few.
feels like small when you're first going, oh no, you just want a small coconut. That's fine. I'll just do it. But you need
Right.
to make sure that that's not going to blow
Yeah.
up
Yeah.
or
That is definitely worth considering because you draw that coconut once and then all of a sudden they do like a whole line of coconut products and you're like, oh wow, wish I would have thought of that one. But some projects like that, so the client comes to me with a list of like 100 items that need to be drawn over the next quarter, and I submit 3 to 5 every couple days, and it just kind of are like slower ongoing projects. So it's more of like a retainer situation
Mhm.
where I know that money is going to come in 90 to 100 days later, but I know that it's
Oh, that's
consistent because I'm just
crazy.
constantly illustrating. um, yeah, I found that even if you put due dates on your invoices, when you're working with larger corporations, they're like, oh, that's cute that you thought it was net 30. Well, here at corporate
Oh,
America,
adorable. We'll pay you when we want to. And even
yeah,
then it'll be after we want to, like when you've chased us
yeah,
four,
it's
four
that
times.
that never stops. Like that
No,
never goes away ever.
no,
So I
definitely.
usually ask for a deposit up front, and I usually have no problem getting them. But that kind of, that tides me over, and then that makes me like a lot less annoyed while I'm working on the project because I'm not like, oh my gosh, it's most of my work comes out like 2 years after I do it. So as I'm working on it, I'm thinking like, I'm not even going to see this in 2 years. Like I need something to
You see
feel
it like
excited
just
about
walking
now.
through and you go, oh yeah, that thing.
Happens
Happened.
all the time.
Really?
Yes, it happens a lot. Yeah.
Ah, interesting. Because that's, for a lot of the stuff that I do, there's a bit of a digital base. And so I actually was scrolling through an illustration job that I did 2 months ago. And I was scrolling through their Instagram and I was like, oh, they haven't put it up. I'll just go to their website. And the illustrations are all over the website. Like the website's live, but
Yeah.
there has been zero talk about it. And I was like, oh,
Yeah.
okay. Are you happy?
I think they
Or
just sometimes forget that you were involved, because when people are like launching a business or launching a product, there's so many moving pieces that by the time the product comes out on the market, I mean, they're excited to launch their product. They're not really thinking like, ooh, I should let Maggie and Jasmine know that their work is live. Like it's just the last thing. Do you mind if
we
I
need
answer
to
this
do,
question?
yeah, I was going to say that as well.
I see golden art. How do you go about looking for jobs in spot illustration and pattern design? Here's an idea for a fun little passion project. You can do some sample spot illustrations, like, you know, pick 3 ingredients like rosemary, thyme, and lavender, and draw them in a couple different styles and like put them online. I love Behance, Pinterest. That's how people find you. So I've never seen a listing that's like looking for a spot illustrator. Most of the time, art directors are like you and me, and they go on Pinterest to get inspired for their project. So make sure your work is on there. Make sure it's clear that you can do the work. Include on your website that you are available for that type of work and have examples.
And like do mock-ups on things that you want to see it on,
Yeah,
and even
totally.
stuff that you don't think that it would work on. Like if you just put it on something really like I don't know about you, but I would wear a lavender thyme illustration as a dress, just cause.
Yeah, I
And
would
just
probably
call me herb.
buy that as an apron.
Yes, exactly. So
Topical.
very. And so I feel like that create work that you want to be hired for and stop saying yes to jobs that you don't want to be hired for, because you're ultimately not going to put it in your portfolio. You're not going to be proud enough and happy enough to put it out there, to say, hey, I do this. So it kind of makes sense.
Oh, and if you really want to get work in spot illustration, start drawing oranges. Orange blossoms. I'm telling you, everyone wants oranges. This is just my hot tip for you.
Yeah, I just did a whole series of illustrations for some baby stuff. Lemons.
Yeah, I don't know any illustrators that have not done a couple citrus projects. And they're also not the easiest thing in the world to draw. So it's a good challenge. Do that. Everybody should just start drawing.
Everyone?
Like there's enough work for all of us.
Yes. Illustrate oranges. It's the new hashtag. Just illustrate oranges. Done.
I'm telling you, you should do that.
There was also one other question that I wanted to kind of go back to. It's actually been kind of asked a couple of different ways. So what does your pricing structure vary between the type of client? Mine personally does, because I very much know that I have a range of larger clients and smaller clients, and the larger clients have larger budgets and have more of a likelihood to make more off of what I'm creating. And the smaller ones don't really have a couple of $1,000s to throw at you, whether it be to the value of what you're doing or all at once. So I personally do, but I'd love to know yours.
You don't even need my answer. I mean, that's the same, same exact thing for me. So yeah, larger clients intrinsically there's more value to your art, because it's probably going to be seen more. It's going to be produced more. It's going to be higher budget projects in general, because they want visibility on it.
I've got more money to throw around to actually buy the 3,000 or 30,000 quantities of whatever you do.
Right. Yeah. Most of my clients, they opt for more exclusivity. So when we go back to the different types of licensing, most larger clients, they want to be the only ones using the artwork, which you get to charge more for. And you should, rightfully, because otherwise that artwork, you could be making money on it elsewhere. You could be selling it on a stock image website and collecting a few bucks a month. You could be, putting your orange pattern out onto the internet where literally everyone will buy it, because I'm not kidding about that.
So, Little Patterns, are you doing an orange pattern full line? Are you just starting to go into oranges on everything?
Everything. People love them. Like I also do. Anyway, so with a smaller client, typically, like if someone reaches out to me and really wants to work together and like, I want to do the project and it looks really cute, it's obviously oranges. So I'm like in,
Duh.
you know, maybe I'll send them a quote and they get back to me and they're like, we can't afford you. Understandable. My work is like super specialized and detailed and not everybody can afford it. And I recognize that. So
Yeah.
what I might try to do to make it work for the smaller client is not to lower my prices, but it's to restrict their rights to reproduce the art. So again, I might tell them something like, okay, well, let's make it work. You know, I'll charge you, like most of my work is like all fairly the same price because I know how much it's going to take me to do it. So I'll say like, you're going to pay me my regular rate to create the art, but we're only going to do a limited season run of it. Like if it does well next year, you can relicense it. But this year,
And you'll have money to relicense it because
and
it's done
hopefully,
well.
exactly, hopefully it does well so you can relicense it, you know, and you can only produce it locally. So you can't just go producing it all over the world. And let's talk about how many items you want to produce with it, because if it goes beyond that item, like you're going to have to re-up. So they're able to get into a contract that's maybe something like an 18-month contract, which allows them to launch their brand, start selling, start making money that they can come back and invest in the artwork. They can come back and they can buy it outright from me and say like, wow, we did so great. Everybody loves oranges. We want to buy the artwork now. And I can do that. So in a way, sometimes small clients can end up being just as lucrative as a project as big clients because you're, you know, re-upping the contract year after year. So instead of getting the flat fee at the start, you're getting incremental revenue off of that client because their products are doing well, which is great for everyone.
So my understanding then would be like you're going in with, here's the creation rate and here is the rate if you buy out like straight away and then that's when they come back? Or
I usually don't offer buyout to start. So when I send a quote, it's usually like, here's the artwork rate and then here are your licensing options. So do you want this to be exclusive? How long? And it's more like a questionnaire form than anything.
I find that a lot of the time when working with clients, giving them a do you want to work with me or don't you want to work with me is going to be a not as successful question as which way do you want to work with me?
Yeah, how can we make this work? And I also think it's really, you know, conscientious to provide those options to a client because you're saying like, I recognize you don't have an unlimited budget to just buy whatever artwork you want. Like we can do this sort of as a trial run to see how the artwork does. And you can reinvest from there if you feel like it's something that's worth it. And then if that, you know, company folds, if that startup idea didn't work out, then that art is yours again. So yeah, you can pick it up and, you know, sell it to somebody else who can make something great with it.
Yeah, awesome. I think that you know, giving those that kind of interaction, you're working with the client instead of working for the client, and I think that can be a really good way to start off a conversation or a relationship with a client of being like, I'm not here for you to go like this and move my mouse around or whatever. Like I'm here to work with you. Let's find a way to work together. That's kind of what's been in my experience as well. So I know that you kind of touched on this earlier of you have pretty much a set price for a lot of the stuff that you do. And I think I've heard sometime you said that you've gone back to projects and gone, okay, it's going to be 30 hours for this. And then you've gone back and it's like almost exactly to how long. And that experience or magic?
Maybe a little of both. I would say it's failure.
Okay.
Because I would say I learned that by, you know, assuming a project would take me 15 hours, which I feel like every creative is always like, oh, that's about 15 hours. Like, that's just the number that's always in our heads. And, you know,
I thought I was like individual. Damn it.
Yeah, I see you. I, you know, maybe do a project that I think is 15 hours and then I'm at hour 60 and I'm just thinking of my hourly earnings sort of just dripping away.
It's a quarter now. It's fine. I'm
just
working for $7 an hour. It's fine.
Yeah. So when it comes to something like pattern creation, you know, I can assume that a typical pattern of my style is going to take me like 35 to 40 hours, unless there's like a peacock in it, and then that's another 10 hours. You know, there are just some items that you kind of learn, like, oh, that's going to take me forever. Or for something, I'll, I'll go back to, I just like to go back to other examples. If I'm talking coconuts, if you ever are working on
They
a
are
coconut,
hairy.
you ever work on a coconut project, just double the amount of time, because there always is going to be somebody on the other end that's like, ooh, can we make it look wetter? Or can we make it less hairy? Or can the shape be sort of rounder? Or can it have dewdrops on it? Like, they're never happy with the first coconut.
That's terrible because I have had the exact same
I know
situation.
you
Like,
have.
I put a drip of coconut milk at it, and they're like,
You know,
looks a bit iffy.
a
Can
little
we
dodgy.
just, oh my
Yeah.
God. Yeah,
Yeah,
the coconut creation is a shared experience.
totally. Coffee
Mhm.
beans are also difficult. A lot of people have feelings on those. How glistening are they? What shape are they?
Have you
So,
been here this whole time? Seriously, Maggie, have you just been
yeah.
like sitting behind me being like, okay, so you're doing coffee, you're doing flowers, and you're doing coconuts. This is everything?
I mean, if you really think about the kind of work that illustrators often get, you can basically put it into three buckets, and it's orange blossoms, coconuts, and coffee beans. Because if it's a food care product, a skincare product, you know, most of those are ingredients that are in like tons of things we use. So,
Mhm.
yes, I have been just watching you.
Okay, cool,
I
cool.
hacked your
It's just,
email. It's been
or
great.
food. Food would
Yeah,
be my one that I've just
yeah.
been doing lately. It's just been pie central for me. I am not overdrawing pie. Scotty, every time we get on a call, he's like, "Oh, every time I'm on a call with you, I get hungry. So this is really annoying." So,
Oh, but he says that, but he's like obsessed with pizza. So you guys are like just pies, but different kinds. Really,
pie,
it's sort of
yeah,
sweet and
exactly.
savory.
This
Um,
works. It's fine.
yeah, yeah. So somebody said I can never figure out how long projects will take me to do, and that's totally normal. It comes with experience, and it comes with failure. It comes with you estimating how long something's going to take you, and then being like so totally wrong about it that you lock in and you say, I'm never going to do that again. I'm going to remember
Hmm.
how long revisions take, and I'm going to remember that next time I need to assume that like the client might not love it the first time. So I
Yeah,
should probably tack on a few just mental hours to back and forth. It's, I wish there was a magic formula. There isn't.
there isn't. There so isn't.
Yeah, and because
I
everybody's
feel
work is
like
so varied.
if I was more if I had the commitment to doing it, I would do maybe a month or 6 months where every single job that I either get inquired for, quoted on, that I put in there, how much did I charge for this? Did I overcharge or undercharge? At the end, how long did it actually take me? Or did I just not get that job? Because I would say I either pass on or am not right for at least 50% of my work. Like
Mm-hmm.
50% at least come to me. And some of them we get like 2, 3, 4 weeks into the project or just into them faffing around going, oh, I'm thinking about doing it on this, but I'm not sure about that. And what do you think? And it's just like, I feel like so many of those projects, I go, well, that went nowhere. That like
Right.
literally went nowhere.
Yeah.
Um,
So that's when you build some protections into your
yeah,
quotes.
yeah, exactly. And that it does happen. But yeah, it's an experience thing.
Oh yeah.
I also had a completely like visceral reaction to the question that just got asked, which is to be able to call yourself an illustrator, do you need to be able to draw everything or just be good at just one? I don't think you need to be good at everything
No.
whatsoever. If you want to find a niche, find a niche. And if you want to just start turning up as an illustrator, start putting it out there because there is many other people who call themselves illustrators that potentially like that you have more skills as
Yeah.
you are already in this spot.
Yeah. And you can, I would say to be able to call yourself an illustrator, you should understand what you cannot or will not draw.
Mm.
I can't draw trees. Can't draw trees.
You can draw flowers, you can draw leaves, but you can't draw trees.
too big, don't like them, don't like roots. When a project comes across and like, we want a tree where the roots make a thing. And I'm like, that's not the project for me. I don't like it. It stresses me out. It's just not my thing. So like, I have every right to see a project come through and say, ooh, no, they want a full tree. I am not the right illustrator for them. But there are so many other illustrators that would really love to have this work. So maybe I'll phone a friend and, you know, check in with them, somebody who I know likes drawing that thing that I just got asked to do. And I'll say like, hey, I'd love to introduce you to one of my colleagues who specializes in this. You would be a much better fit. That's one of my favorite flexes ever, is to be like, this one doesn't sound great for me, but I have the right person for you.
Yes. Not giving them a no straight out. It's a no, but here is this that I've prepared. Like I've already had the conversation with them and partially briefed them in. They're waiting for your call. So you go and talk to them.
Yeah. I also don't do lettering like at all. I used to, but it was hard and I didn't like it and it stressed me out. And I always was struggling because I was like, I know what I want it to look like in my brain. It just doesn't come out that way when I make it. And for 3 or 4 years, I was kind of struggling to make the kind of lettering that I saw in my head until finally I was like, oh, you know what? I could just hire somebody to do this for me. And then I can draw all this stuff around the letters. And then the piece is going to be filled with joy because it wasn't filled with me struggling to fight against my illustrative abilities.
A perfect example is the cover of Flowerscape.
Yeah. Oh, and also sometimes, like, unfortunately we missed out on last time. I'll just post something that's like, hey, any letters want to collaborate with me?
And then I just scream at you through Instagram. It's like, hey, hi.
Yeah. And I obviously pay whenever I'm getting paid for a project, but sometimes it's like, I'll have like an idea in the middle of the night and I'm like, this is the perfect collaboration. And I'm not going to make any money on it, but surely there's somebody out there who also just wants to do like a fun passion project, because those are so great for advertising what you want to do. Much like we said, like draw some oranges. Well, if you or draw some rosemary, thyme, and lavender, I think I said, you can do that, but you could also find maybe a letterer who's like, ooh, I'm also looking for some like cool, fun stuff to advertise my work in my portfolio. I'm going to do some like beautiful lettering for the word lavender, and then you draw the lavender sprigs and we'll weave them together. And now we've got like a buddy project that really showcases what we can do as a team. It's great. I mean, I love the collaborative aspect of working with people who are so excited about what they do. You don't have to do the stressful part. You just get to have joy in creating with another person.
Yeah, which I think is a lot of the difficulty when we are doing graphic design. I actually remember the last job that I took before I moved to Melbourne. So I'm originally from Adelaide, and the last job that I was employed in, within the first week, I got told by someone else, this is where designers go when they've had enough being creative. And I'm like, that is just soul crushing. So I think that now, given we have so much access to collaborative creation, and it can be across the seas, it can be no matter kind of what, if you have an idea or part of an idea and you wanting to reach out to someone and you're wanting to have that potential collaboration ability, ask the question. And I've done the same thing as well. Like I've seen other people's lettering, even though I do lettering as well, and said, hey, I really like this, but I actually think it could look really cool animated. Do you want to do this together? And they go, yeah, sure, why not? And so, yeah, it's kind of finding where you can take the stress out of the creation process. Yeah. Just because you can't do everything doesn't mean that you can't do anything at all.
Right. And it's more fun that way too. Because you come up with something that you never expected to come up with, which also it's hard to create in a vacuum. It's hard.
We try though. We give it a red hot go.
We all try. Like, there's some days where I wake up and I'm like, oh, I'm feeling creative, and yet don't know what I should create. And so you're just this, like, you feel like you're like a little caged baby bird where you're like, I can draw something. And then you grab your iPad and you're like, but
I can't. There was this great picture that went around, and it's like, it's all fun and games being an illustrator, and then all of a sudden you're Googling, how do I draw bird? Like,
Right.
I know how to draw this. I know what it looks like. How I draw this.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, we've all had those moments, and so it's hard to be collaborative, or it's hard to be creative sometimes without collaboration, or without like a creative person to bounce ideas off of or to talk to. So, you know, everybody kind of harps, I think, on like the internet for messing with creativity and for having like that comparison culture. But I really think if you sort of flip your perspective and you understand that it can be a source of collaboration and inspiration, you feel a lot better. Because if you're eyeing somebody's work and you're just like, oh, I wish I could do that, like, you know, you don't have to do what they do. You can do something that complements it beautifully, and then maybe they'll reach out to you and be like, oh, man, like your lettering would go
take
great
on
with
what I
my
did.
stuff. Yeah.
And I think the movement of draw this in your style stuff
So
has
cool.
just been massive and so cool, because it gives a way to, one, the person learning from what they see, two, a collaborative aspect, and three, like giving the original artist the recognition that they were supposed to do. Like, you know, they're still going, I did this, I didn't come up with it, I did it in my style from theirs. And, you know, it makes it so that it's not, I think this is something that Elizabeth Gray has been talking a lot about lately, of when people repost or reuse the artwork and they don't give attribution. And it's really important that that happens. And I know it's something that you've had to deal with a little bit with, like Pinterest people being like, can someone else draw it in Little Patton's style? And it's like, or Little Pattons could draw it in her style, because that's what she does.
Can't do it. Yeah.
Yeah.
It happens all the time. It happens all the time. I'll answer this question. Do you ever feel like you're locked in your niche and not able to branch out to something completely different without pushback from your audience? I really liked that question when it popped up. I was very excited because my answer is twofold. Number one, do you feel like you're locked in your niche? Yeah, I do, but I love it. Like I love my niche. And I feel really excited. I still feel very excited to do the work that I do. And sometimes it can be like supremely repetitive, but I still love it. So I should note that. Are you not able to branch out to do something completely different without pushback from your audience? So I usually just don't share my totally different stuff with people. Like
she's just like drawing Dungeons and Dragons fan art in the background.
Like I have creative pursuits completely different, and I understand that maybe they're experimental, or they're you know, a little different for me. So maybe I'll just create a second account or something and use that to sort of get my ideas out. Or it doesn't have to be shareable. Like I'm a really good cook. I love it so much. I'm not sharing my food photos on my business account, because my business account is there to advertise my services. Like my business account is the storefront for what you can get. And you can't buy a pie from me. You can from Jasmine in the form of a pie pricing guide, but you can't, like, I'm not going to do that stuff professionally. Yeah. I love it. I love the creative process of it, but there's a place for everything. This person used the term audience, which is why I'm specifically referring to the internet. But if I want to share a creative pursuit with my audience and it's like so totally different, go ahead and do it. But unless you're prepared for that, you want to advertise that skill as a hireable skill, you also just don't have to share it. Yeah. Like you don't have to. Don't share with your audience if you're worried about pushback. Just save it for yourself and let it be your little secret fun project.
Let it be your joy.
Unveil it when it's ready.
Definitely. Most definitely. I think that we are so, not so much pushed, but prompted by a lot of us creatives have other creatives in our community which then creates community comparison. And then we're like, oh my God, that person's doing everything. But then you find out that they've got like 7 other people behind the scenes that are helping them with stuff. Or perfect example is with Lauren Hong. She's gone and done, like, she's been doing what she's been doing for so long and so well. She's a leader within the space that she's carved out for herself. But now she's pursuing cooking. And so she's kind of almost crossing the two, making it relevant to the audience that is there. But also, I'm almost 100% sure that like a good lot of the stuff that she's doing, she just doesn't post. She just doesn't publicize it and advertise it, because it's not like she's there trying to open a restaurant. She's just doing it for joy.
Yeah, exactly. I think there is a certain letting yourself keep some creative pursuits sacred and is something that is an outlet for you and doesn't have the pressure of trying to get validity from people on the internet. The one surefire way to just kill your dreams is to put your work on the internet and have any feeling of someone not responding well to it, or like, why did this post perform slightly worse than the last one?
Why have I only got 21 likes on something that I spent 21 hours on?
I feel like this point has just been beat to death by everyone everywhere. But if you really want to love something, like, keep it a little bit sacred, keep it to yourself, because then you'll never know if nobody likes it.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. You guys don't need to see my cross stitch, okay? You just don't. It's my personal pursuit, and it's got nothing to do with illustration. It's got nothing to do with pricing. It's got nothing to do with anything that I'm trying to push. And I think that's a really good point of saying, like, your Instagram is your storefront. You know, it's a visual portfolio that is constantly updated and constantly being viewed and responded to. I think that because
it depends on, I was going to say, it depends on your goal, because if your goal, if we're talking just Instagram pages, if your goal is to get commissioned work as an illustrator, treat that page like your storefront. If your goal is to sell items, treat that page as your storefront. If your goal is to create community and like make friends, your captions speak for you, and you can use it as like commenting and sharing you as a person, maybe more so than your storefront. If your goal is to, have someone hire you to be a spokesperson, include your face, like, understand your goal.
Yeah.
My goal
100%.
is rarely to sell items. So if you look at my page, there are like so few product images. And
listings. If they're products, they're other people's products who have put your illustrations on them.
Yeah, because my goal is for some art director to come to my page, see a beautiful image, and imagine, like, wow, what if that was on my project that I'm working on? Like, I want them to see themselves in it. So I kind of like it to feel like a little blank canvasy, like just these beautiful images that don't have any branding on
just
them.
Imagine where this could go.
Exactly. Yeah. That's my goal, which is why I treat my page in that manner. But so you should just have an end goal, and then don't beat yourself up too hard about fitting into anything else.
Yeah, because a lot of the time you're sitting there and going, okay, if you're basing your success on your metrics, you're gonna have a bad time.
Right.
And a lot of the time, I think I need to remind myself that when I post, because a lot of my audience isn't necessarily exactly who I want them to be yet, as in, like, I haven't gotten a lot of designers or freelancers who are struggling with pricing yet. They're still finding me. They're still searching through all of the stuff, and they're going to eventually find me as long as I put out the right signals and throw up the right flares in the air and go, hey, if you need help with pricing, let me know.
Yeah.
Because I've been client focused for the last 5 years and actually walking the walk and talking the talk so that I can teach the thing. And so I end up, having to get rid of that whole, okay, they just haven't found me yet. It's okay. They just haven't found me yet. Let's find a different way to try and get their attention.
Right. You kind of have to like pivot continually and understand. I don't personally believe in the algorithm is the enemy. I just think that I don't.
No, I don't think it's the enemy. I just don't think that it should be the be all and end all.
It's kind of like diet culture. Like you're never going to win. So you just have to be happy with what you have.
We're just standing in front of the mirror naked with our Instagram thing like, this is fine. This is fine.
Yeah, but I think it should be more playful. Like you should try to understand if there's an audience you want to reach, like find joy in trying to figure out where those people are and what they want to see. Not like, you shouldn't be looking at it from the perspective of like how many people are going to like this, because are those people your clients or your future clients or the people that are going to purchase your work? Not necessarily the case. It just doesn't work that way. Like we think it does. Like we equate something like a lot of likes with a lot of sales, or like occasionally I've had some trolls in my inbox that have said things like, well, you're like a big corporation, so why are you, giving people advice like likes don't matter when you get so many? And I'm like, well, I'm not a big corporation. I'm just a gal.
Yeah, look at the whole company.
Well, I do have
I have a team,
small team. But my goal isn't to please them. My goal is to get on the of decision makers at companies. That's my audience. It's really nice that I've made friends on here, but my audience isn't you, Jasmine. Like you're probably not going to hire me for a gig. I don't
have the budget. I'll be right honest. I actually have reached out to you and we have gone and I've gone, you know what? I appreciate what you do and I love what you do, but also for the thing that I want to hire you for, it's not worth it. It's not making me commercial money from using what you're doing. And so I sit there and I go, it's not that what you're creating isn't perfect for me, because it is. And I just, want to grab it all and everything, but it's that the end outcome doesn't suit what is needed.
And if you get, 5,000 likes, but not a single one of them is a potential client for any of your purposes, then they really don't matter if that was your goal.
Likes don't pay bills.
No, they do not.
No, but it won't.
But I would say market visibility does.
Yes, most definitely.
So having high visibility does, but there's not only one platform to do that on.
Yeah.
There are lots of platforms.
Yeah, and just because you don't have a strong visibility on one doesn't mean that you can't pour all of your energy into another one. I've seen a lot of people do the Clubhouse thing. I've seen a lot of people do the Behance or the Dribble thing. I haven't done heaps of that. I've kind of just got my Instagram and my website, and that's kind of what I pour my energy into. And I know that I could probably diversify and I probably could do stuff like that. But I'm also going, well, I've got enough clients. I'm busy enough. If I do any more, I'll have another stress cry for this week. So like you have to understand that there's only so much you can do and only so many hours in the day and only so many care factors that you can put into everything, I guess.
Totally. And you have to save a little bit for yourself, a little slice of the pie.
Yeah, exactly. Just to answer the quick question, yes, there will be a replay of this straight after this because Instagram, when you finish a live, it goes, you need to post it straight away. So I'll be posting it straight away after this. So this replay will be there as well. And I'm going to ask one more question. So if you could go back to younger Maggie, and at the start of yeah, exactly, because 31 is still young. Thank you very much.
I'm 31 too.
Hey, 32 in September, so it doesn't really feel any different from being 26. I just
I still think I'm 26. There's one grocery store here that asks your age while they look at your ID, and I'm like, 31. In my mind, I'm 26, and I will be forever.
Yeah, and I think all of us are also 1 year younger, because last year didn't count. Like it didn't, I had my 31st while sitting at home on my rooftop illustrating. I legitimately was just drawing leaves while sitting on my rooftop with my dog in the sun. And that's my idea of a perfect birthday. But if you could go back to younger Maggie and tell her something about pricing, something about what you are doing now, and give a kind of a, this is my advice, what would it be?
Um, thought about this a lot because you already pre-sent me this question. I um, I have to give some kudos to younger Maggie because she went in like possibly even more fearless than I am now, because her desire for knowledge was just like abundant. So the gusto that I had then, like if I got a project inquiry, like the gusto I had to like really research it and figure out what all the possible terminology that we might have to talk about was, like I did that.
She was a researcher.
Yeah, major researcher. So I think if I went back in time, I would tell her like, you go girl, you're doing such a good job. Keep going. And I would give her major kudos for this one thing that I still do, which is honesty and asking questions to clients and not pretending like I know everything. So those are kind of interesting because it's like I wanted so desperately to know everything and to come across like a total professional. But there were times where like I knew that in order to appropriately quote a project, I had to say this phrase, which I still say to this day. You know, I say, thank you so much for this project inquiry. Like, I would really love to make this work. I want to be completely candid with you. I have never done this type of work before. And I can tell, you know, from your previous projects that you have hired other illustrators. So can you tell me more about how your agreements have worked with other illustrators in the past? And then usually they're like, yes, he usually do. You know, for stuff like textile design and things that are just like these whole other industries that like I am not an expert in. You know, someone might approach me and ask me to do textile design, and I'm like, how do I quickly Google how this works? You can't. But somebody that's approaching you to do a project like this has likely hired so many other illustrators to do textile design. And so you can have a candid conversation with them. You might not make as much as you would have on the first project, but then you know what you're doing. And so the second project, you can say, last time I did textile design, this is how our agreement worked. Is that how you typically work as well? And
yeah,
like, it's okay. You're allowed to be candid. There is no illusion. The client knows that you are an independent-ish illustrator. You're allowed to ask questions. They're other human beings. And just make sure you lock in what you've learned and take it with you to the next gig.
Yeah, definitely. And I've had the exact same thing. I've actually even had it this week.
I did too, this week.
Yeah, a couple of days ago. And it was an amazing opportunity working for a larger company. But my questioning thing was more like, they've said, okay, this is the amount that is the hourly rate for this job because it's in-store stuff. And they must have known that they needed to ask the question of, is this right?
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, well, one, you've started the conversation off the right way, being human. But two, going back to them and saying, look, it's a little bit low, but if that's your budget, let's find out what else you have to be able to make up that deficit between what I usually charge, what you're paying. If there's a space within there, can it be something that you would utilize? So this particular one, I'll be able to utilize art supplies or an account at their store. I've got one email just came through like 2 minutes ago. I get paid in wine. If it's anything that I need to pay for, so for like printing or production or anything like that, that's a paid cost. But if it's my time and my investment, I sit there and I go, like, I literally send them an invoice that says this many bottles of wine, please send to this address. I drink my profits, but only for one client. You can't build an empire while drunk.
Yeah, it's not a bad move. And that's where I would go in and like limit licensing. But wine also is fantastic.
I only drink the 2017s. Thank you. Just make it work for you. Make whatever it needs to be work for you.
Yeah. It's everything is a learning process and it never stops. And
No, definitely
like I
not.
said, I've learned everything by failing and by thinking I can never afford to do that again. I have to lock this in, and I have to be proactive about how I'm approaching things like quotes so that I don't get starstruck and make a stupid mistake or, give away my rights to something because I was so excited to do the project.
Or finish the project in your head and then realize that they don't have the budget, and now you're disappointed that this design that lives in your head is never going to see the light of day again.
Yeah, it happens all the time. It happens all the time, and I think it's totally okay to like slow down, ask questions, and understand, like really understand what you're doing, so that you can be more proactive every time.
Because as creatives in the commercial space, we're being hired to solve problems, and if you don't know the problem and you can't work out, like they might say that this is the problem, but it's not. Like it's something much deeper, or looking at the wrong way because you're on the outside and can understand looking in. Okay, maybe it should be doing this, or maybe we should be doing that. Being solution based and problem solving based is really important as designers, especially when it comes to pricing for that problem being solved. And you have paused, but that is okay. No, you're back. Yay! Well, actually, that kind of wraps us up because we've been on here for an hour and 10 minutes, and I could talk for about 5 more hours with you, but then I would get zero work done, and you would still pause. No, you're back. Okay, cool.
You paused too, so I knew when you were back. Anyway, this has been lovely.
Excellent. It has. I am personally now going to actually start my day of all my design and all of my clients and look after them because I have a new project starting tomorrow afternoon and I need to get everything done on my to-do list before this. But to finish off, I would be saying if you're wanting to get lost in some illustration and color your life away, head to purchase Little Patton's book. But they are still coming, and I'll be sharing mine as soon as that, so you can all live vicariously through me.
They're sold out, which is like great news, but it's also really stressful because I want people to buy this book and I don't have any copies for them.
But I think that it will be that I've seen a couple like people posting them that they're in store in places.
Yes,
so I feel
they're in store.
Like golden nugget.
Like all of the available prints in the world were claimed by either like retailers or purchased, and so now there aren't any available on the internet other than I think there are like a couple at Barnes and Noble in the US. But there's a reprint.
I may have purchased 2. I'm very greedy.
I can't believe you took that. No, so there are more copies coming soon. My book is called Flowerscape. It's a coloring book. It's super pretty. And then one person asked me for a cameo of my dog, and he's downstairs, but you may have heard him barking, so that counts.
So he's cameoing via voice. I would generally have chorizo on mine as well, but he is at home. I said, do you want to go to work? And he went back onto the covers. So I was like, never mind, don't worry about it. But also, if you enjoyed this conversation and this slice of advice chat, you'll be on the Instagram live or IG live, IGTV. Straight after this, I'll upload it straight away so you can go back through and pause at all of our weird faces. But also, if you're interested in finding out a bit more about pricing and pricing as a creative, head to easyaspricing.com.au or easyaspricing.com to download a freebie on mastering your 3 basic pricings, which is hourly, project, and value. Over the next couple of days, I'll be posting bits and pieces you'll be able to see, but also I'll be having a couple more guests on. I think I've got one on Friday, which is Arlie Marin, and I've got another one on Monday here, but Sunday there, which is Belinda Coe, and I'm really excited. Yeah. I love her too.
I'll tack on really quick. If you just want to
Yeah.
read a little bit about licensing, I have a blog about it. littlepatterns.com/blog.
I haven't read that at all.
Yeah, it basically goes over like what we talked about. But then you can go to Jasmine's page because it'll be more comprehensive.
Oh, don't worry. There is something coming up in June 1st that will have some references to people who talk about things that you should know. So
Oh,
keep an eye out of eye out for that. And if you do end up heading to easiestpiepricing.com.au, you also get on my mailing list and you get first dibs at any kind of information like this that you can jump on and watch.
perfect.
Thank you so much, Maggie. I don't think I fangirled too hard,
No,
but
you did
I'm
well. You
gonna
kept it together.
Thanks. I'm gonna go and do a couple of runs around the car park just to get all the excited energy out. It'll be fine.
Perfect.
It'll be fine.
Have a good
Awesome.
start to your day.
I will. Have a good Wednesday to all of my Aussies here, and have a good Tuesday to all of the Americans.
Bye,
Amazing.
everybody.
Thanks. Have a great day.